already said this.
Yeah, we'll be here. The open meeting back posted on the roll call.
Buckminster.
Here.
Ferguson.
Here.
Foraker.
Here.
Holly.
Here.
Layton.
Here.
Ratcliffe. Rod.
Here.
Wisdom.
Here.
We have one.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't have any reports, city administrator's report.
I'll go over a few items here. So our December 2nd meeting, we'll have four council members coming off. Be sure to attend that meeting. That'll be kind of the dual meeting where the newly elected council will be oathed in. I do have I'll be reaching out to all the newly elected council members to get all their contact info, get them set up with their city email, and also a city 101 kind of handbook or council member handbook that I've drafted together to somehow shows them how I guess the city operates and how it runs through the state. So plan to meet with them, some of them, hopefully prior to coming in as oath, but if not, we'll do it right after. We'll try to get that done without a quorum. So since we got four of them, we'll have to do a couple separate meetings to get that done. We did get a couple of non-select notifications for grants. So the rural community recovery, the $1 million for the 1506 Stone Park, we got notification we did not receive that. So that was a one-time pot of money, so that won't be accessible again. The natural gas distribution infrastructure safety grant, which was a $9.5 million ask. We got notification for that. The entity that put it together thought we had a really strong application compared to much of the others that they were awarded, but we still have 2 more years to submit that. So we'll re-engage that one and submit that one again. Won't cost us hardly anything to get that done. Moving forward, we'll just have to revise pricing, we'll bring it up to date. As far as the DTR grants, we should be getting notice to proceeds out for all the local grants for the property owners, and then we have MEI is still doing the design work for the streetscape component. So hopefully we'll have that done over winter and get that out to bid in the spring is the plan there. So we do have insurance claims submitted for the wind event on October 30th. So the alarm, which is now on our public side, is engaged, and then Cincinnati on our utility side is engaged for those pieces. And then we have the disaster response for NEMA that is submitted, but we don't have a disaster response number yet. So they'll issue that, and we'll go through all the next steps for that, which takes a significant amount of time, but we'll have all the repairs done under insurance. Anything that insurance doesn't cover, we'll be able to get a good chunk of that done through or covered through the NEMA public assistance. So again, with that NEMA, we had the Preston Bridge project. We have a DR number for that, or got added to one that was already within the state. We were kind of right on the back end of their dates for that, so they amended that, got us in. So we had a little kickoff meeting for that. They do exploratory meetings, do a whole bunch of steps to get through that. That's going to require a 25% match of funds for the repair of that, which we had estimated the total project around $1.3 billion if we have to completely replace that project. So we'll be working with the engineering firm to see what can be done. There may be some silting in or some other components that we'd have to do and work with the Corps of Engineers. That might be a cheaper option, but we'll kind of vet through all those pieces to find out what's going to be the best or most viable option for us. Then we'll have a public hearing at the Board of Public Works meeting on November 21st at 5:30. So that's for this Thursday. That'll be going over the 1 and 6 year street plan, which will then come to council at the next meeting. So that's all I got.
Under consent agenda, minutes approval November 4th, agenda approval, claims approval October 26th through November 8th, treasurer's report, consent agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
All vote.
All right, 7 yeas.
One old business discussion and action. Final reading of ordinance 2024-101 to amend police regulations for dogs and cats.
All right, so we'll do the reading. Ordinance number 2024-101, an ordinance of the city of Falls City, Nebraska relating to police regulations, dogs and cats. Amend current dogs and cats section 6-101 through 6-104, 6-107, 6-110 through 6-114. To add section 6-115 to provide restrictions on the number of dogs and or cats residing in a home. To add section 6-116 to provide restrictions on owning dangerous dogs after owning a previous dangerous dog. To repeal conflicting ordinances and sections. To provide penalties for violations of city code and to provide an effective date. No changes since last amended at the second reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All vote.
7 yeas.
Number 2, discussion and action, review of employee cell phone policy.
All right, so we're bringing this item back. I think it was 2 meetings ago, we discussed that cell phone policy and then talked about, or we tabled the item to bring back to look at screen locking requirements and software. We added in a component for that within the policy, titled in there, screen lock requirement, essentially where it provides, you have to have a screen lock or a PIN and a software that'll get added onto the phone so that can be monitored by our IT and by myself, that those are being implemented. So no sensitive information that would potentially be on it can go out just automatically. So that was the only item that was added in. All the other changes, or no other changes were made.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All vote.
Seven yeas.
Move on to regular business, discussion and action. Review of award of 2024 SCADA water systems upgrade project to HOA Solutions totaling $149,205 as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Trevor.
All right. The agenda that went out had, or showed us award of $136,637. So the public information's been updated, or the public agenda packets, but the council's packets were not. That was an error on my part, which we'll look at the pricing. It's the awards that are in there are the scope components, the control hardware panel, and then option A or B. We're looking at the Board of Public Works approved option A. So that changed that total up to that $149,205. I'll let Trevor take it and explain what we're doing.
So this is kind of part B to finishing the SCADA improvement project that kind of, you guys approved here when I first started. The engineering's been done. The implementation is slated to occur here in December. We wanted to get outside of the heavy pumping season, which is basically May till August, September. But ultimately, this HOA was hired back in March to do the engineering, and then they put together a specification for a hardware to implement this new control system for for a water system. Ultimately, we had to put the hardware out to bid. HOA was the only one that provided a bid, so they took it to the Board of Public Works two Thursdays ago, and it says $149,205 is for the equipment, and then HOA will provide that equipment based off this bid, and then do final engineering and installation of the SCADA system at the water plant and at the power plant, which will ultimately give Dave Bacon, our head water operator, control of the water system and try to pull some of that functionality from the power plant operators that's historically occurred down there, so they can focus their efforts on the power plant and less on water system operations. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on particularly.
I just got a techie question. The decision to go hybrid as opposed to the full cloud, was that?
I can give you an answer on that. I was actually so the hybrid basically just means it's full cloud with a local backup server.
So if the internet goes down, you still have control over it?
Yeah, it was kind of opted for another $12,000 for a, theoretically a 15, 20-year project. $12,000 in the scheme of things is nothing. So it's just a piece of redundancy. I can elaborate a little more on the techie piece if you want, but
That's all I want to know.
that's what it
Just
is.
local access in the other.
Yeah, redundancy, and it's local to the water plant, not our local city server. So it's more secure that way.
True.
Essentially, we can unplug and operate the plant.
And then God forbid,
If we had a
say you
hybrid
did get hijacked or you lost internet or you lost local server, we can still run the plant in hand. So
You still have to drive.
you have to be present and physically operate the facility. Definitely. So there's kind of 3 layers of protection.
It's all based out of rules, so there's always staff or rule no matter what, pumping into the plant, but then we got pumps that pump out of the clear wells at the power plant that are not even tied to our current old SCADA system. So now it's a metered component. They can kind of see it, but they can't do anything with it.
So the SCADA is isolated from the county network, or from the city network.
Yeah, it'll be its own new
It's
server.
closed. Yeah.
And it'll be its own cloud-based server. This will give Dave access and control of the whole water system, basically from his pocket and from the plant locally right now. The way it functions, you have to have operators in town to run that system, which is number one, not real efficient. You're also using power plant operators who have to be water certified to run that system. And then, trying to get rid of the night shift at the power plant, this kind of rolls right into that piece where, through attrition, trying not to hire back 8 people, and that goes back into offsetting salaries so we can build the water department. And so this all kind of plays together. Ultimately, like I say, give our water plant control of the water system and power plants, they have to worry less about it, but still have the ability to see what's going on.
This final phase, once installed, will allow us to remove the second shift from the power plant. Once it's fully operating, good to go, no personnel changes happening, because we only have currently 6 down there, and we'll be having 1 retire early in 2025, and 5 would be the ultimate plan of operation down there.
We'll be going from 7 days a week, 24/7 to 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts. Maybe better work schedule for the guys down there, and use some technology to help benefit the staff, and staffing, future hiring, and ultimately better control the system. So
Thank you. You bet. So I'll make a motion to approve. Second. Vote.
7 yeas.
Moving to number 3, discussion and action. Review of Aquatic Center Staff Manual, Emergency Action
One
Plan.
above that there.
Sorry.
Snow and ice.
Discussion and action. Review of the 2024 Snow and Ice Control Plan as recommended by the Board of Public Works Director.
So Anthony and I worked together, ultimately put some sort of plan and procedure on paper. So number one, our staff knows what the heck's going on, and two, the public has an idea of what our processes are. And we vetted this with the street department, and then of course both Board of Public Works will come to you guys just for final codification, and then if there's any future changes to it. Not to say that this is perfect. There's probably going to be some stuff that people might take exception to, but it can be modified. Ultimately, probably the biggest thing in here that I would say is probably different for the public would be for the business owners downtown. We exhaust a lot of resources on hauling snow, and we got a lot of town to clear the streets for rather than focusing a lot of our efforts. And 3, 4, 5 guys hauling snow downtown Stone Street during a snowstorm. I mean, the goal is to get the whole town, all the routes in town clean. There's two kind of different cutoffs here. We call it priority 1, which is for a 1-inch snow, which is our priority routes that are defined in the map in here, which is our main streets, our downtown, our highways, school routes. And then kind of priority 2, we're back up to priority 1 is also the city parking lots. And then priority 2 is kind of 2-inch snow, which basically plow everything in town with still your priority routes, parking lots being your focal. And then to follow up with the rest, if we do get a big snow, obviously we're going to have to haul snow at some point. But the intent is we have 5 street guys. And historically, we've always had to rely on other departments to bring in employees to help push snow because, you only have so many pieces of equipment. When you're tying up 2/3 of your staff that's plowing snow downtown, everything else kind of gets left to the wayside or takes a little bit longer than maybe what it should. So this kind of gives priority to all the streets in town, not just downtown, which downtown is a priority for sure. But part of the problem is you have contractors come in. We already have the streets plowed, and then the sidewalks get pushed right back out in the street. So we're kind of chasing our tail at that point. This will allow us, and you go through you'll see some maps that were put together strategically, and that could be changed a little bit. But ultimately, at the end of each block, we'll have downtown on Stone Street. We'll push snow to the corners, and if the contractor doesn't get there until 6 hours later, 12 hours later, whatever, push it out in the street and then push it down to the pile. Or if they beat us, just push it out in the street and then we'll come by and we'll get it pushed to a pile. And it's just gonna be working a little bit. It'll be different for contractors, so there'll be some confusion and learning curve there with probably the first handful of snows. That's part of the problem too, is how often has it been snowing here? It hasn't a whole lot. So every time it's kind of fly by the seat of your pants, I feel like. And there's this opportunity to put pen to paper and you get new employees, coming through. Here's what we do. Here's how we plow snow. Here's where it goes. This is the route you need to drive. And ultimately the goal is to utilize the street crew that you have rather than burdening the gas department, wastewater department, or, the other guys that come in and help, which is great. And they still will be kind of on an on-call basis. Kind of teed up, a couple a day or two before, someone's sick. That's one of the concerns the guys have. Oh, someone's sick. Well, that's why we have this. You can throw it in the pickup. If that pickup or piece of equipment is sitting empty, you do this route. So there's no confusion on what needs to occur.
Have you reached out to some of the snow removal contractors and sort of give them a heads up on this?
Not yet, but that'll come after we get
After
this.
we approve it, yeah.
Yeah, we worked with we went through, our emergency routes were kind of wild. It was practically 2/3 of town was our emergency routes before. So we've kind of narrowed those down, and then worked with the schools on their routing.
That was the big
To
one.
make sure we got that biggest impact, with how they're doing bus routes in and out, both ways, because they take different routes for that, and then catching all the public safety components, all the public safety parking lots that we need to get opened up. So that's all been vetted through. So we significantly reduced our emergency routes, so we'll actually be able to roll a little faster through those. But we won't really engage full town until it hits that 2-inch mark, or it's planned to at least hit that 2-inch mark.
I mean, ultimately, the focus is trying to get the main corridors opened up, not particularly for any one business, you know, or person, so.
Well, the map looks pretty neutral, because it's not really geared towards any particular residential area.
No, and that was kind of the theory with the cleanup, you know, where I felt like it kind of started getting more.
Get the main routes in
Get the
and
main
out of
routes,
town,
yeah.
and the business, yeah, okay.
I think you need to move Stan's Lake Road to.
That's in the fine print.
So we have a map then that shows like downtown, Stone Street, everywhere that we're gonna have a snow pile. And we'll reach out to all the property owners along that, the contractors, and give them that data to try to explain, because that's the worst area. The idea would be, it'd be piled up, we'll take over, you know, 1 or 2 stalls, and then hopefully after hours, you know, if we have heavy snow, then immediately after hours, you know, business closes, our staff, snow staff can still come in, do that clearing, or do it the next day, you know, on after hours or before operating hours, so we're not fighting traffic in the downtown areas. And then we've also, I guess, kind of just finalized a permanent snow pile location. Before they essentially talk to Hull City Rec, and they go to the Saddle Club, and we put them on, I think, the Aquatic Center parking lot and the Dallas Jones parking lots at the Field Complex. So we kind of went through that, looked at where we could look at permanent snow piles, which we have the gravel parking lot in Grandview, seemed like one of the most suitable ones. It's gravel, we don't have to worry about storm sewer is right on site, and having that as our permanent pile location through the winter timeframe, and just pile it all there. And a secondary one would be the old tree dump, where we have a borrow pit out there now for soil. We can pile snow out there if we really needed to.
So just a question is false to that you're not gonna use Saddle Club anymore?
Yeah, it's
For snow.
for snow.
Well, no, we have that agreement of
Yeah.
shredding and snow,
No,
so.
No, I'd say as far as that, then we'll still, because we're still using
Just turn some mud
space
back
around
there.
there.
Yeah, I drove through there a couple months ago and I thought, wow, this is,
Last winter, we were hauling snow back there, and it just, I gotta find a hard surface, and then ideally you're not putting snow on a hard surface for it to freeze and, you know, potentially cause other pavement issues that you want to avoid, so.
Well, I would probably communicate, like, try to emphasize the piling locations to the contracted people too, because I know there was a lot of complaints. And granted, a heavy snow is hard to control, but we got everybody full force pushing snow. It seemed like a lot of the contracted snow plows were just shoving up the snow into like people's yards. And then they were just freaking out because now they've got half their yards full of gravel from the streets and things like that. So it might not even hurt to just make sure they understand kind of the proper way to push it off the side of the streets rather than using someone's front yard to pile a 10-foot chunk of snow.
You're speaking of contractors.
Yeah, you know,
Whoever
whoever, whether it's Scholes and his crew or whoever you pull in, but, you know, because they're running around with 4-wheelers and skid loaders and trucks, and then you end up with piles everywhere.
So we only have piles for downtown business district is all we have.
What's this other one with the?
Our big snow pile is what we will haul off, like what gets piled down Stone Street or piled on Chase. That's where we'll end up hauling after hours to, like,
So-
but nobody else hauls to Grandview, no entities or private contractors.
Okay, so everything else is just kind of fair game from as far as like street cleanup and things like that, just push it where you can find it.
Well, street cleanup, I mean, if you're pulling snow off of someone's property, it goes
It's
on their
supposed to go
property.
back to that property.
It should be going across the street or down the street. I mean, that's when you get PD involved and you get to handle it that way, but I haven't heard of issues like that.
This last always-
Some of the cut up streets, like on my neighborhood, for about 2 or 3 blocks, there's narrower streets from Lane to Wilson. And the guys get to rolling it and, you know, then they pick their corners, shove it up on the curb. And they got, some yards got gouged. And then you get that dead end east of me on 24th and McLean. And it's just sort of a T intersection there, and it got shoved up along the curb. So a lot of snow coming all the way from Lane Street or Harlan Street all the way down the street. Sort of got shoved up there. Now, it was a heavy snow. I'm not complaining, but then I got complaints like, hey, that's not even my snow, it's in my yard.
Well, if it's coming out of the street, that's a different story.
That's
If
right.
it's coming out of someone's driveway or sidewalk,
Well, this, some of this.
I'm talking street too.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
if it's
about.
coming out of the street, it's gonna go to the most efficient way to not, you're gonna end up blocking people's sidewalk, mailbox, driveway, that's
It wasn't
part of
so
it, try to avoid
I
it.
know that,
But
and but you get these calls, I'm like, hey, they're doing, you just complained to me 24 hours ago, the streets weren't cleared, and I said, now the streets are cleared, you're worried about a little pile of snow somewhere.
sometimes there's a common sense fix, and other times it's, you just gotta get yelled at and tell us out.
Oh, well, yeah.
It just comes with the territory, but.
Well, my point is kind of null, because if the city is the only ones hauling off, then really, then it is just kind of a common sense courtesy thing, but I would still probably communicate, if you're having a conversation with contractors, maybe try to coordinate some sort of rhyme and reason.
We'll put together kind of a little cut sheet like we did for our building permitting and all those others. We put together a cut sheet, kind of a brochure piece that we can engage the public with, do a little outreach with it at the same time. Probably try to, because we don't license, snow guys or anything, so we just have to make phone calls for who we know is potentially doing it, just trying to push it out as much as we can.
Well, one of the first questions that's gonna come up is, can contractors haul these piles? The answer is probably gonna be no. Wherever you're hauling snow from, you should have a place to push it up, and if you need to haul it, then.
Yeah.
But you do want to use
You're-
the downtown spots though, because there's really
They-
nowhere to put
They can
that.
be used, there's only so much
Yeah.
space, it's just,
That's
that's the
sidewalk space.
the sidewalks,
And
but
you
if
don't
you're
want to
plowing
put
a
it, yeah.
customer's parking lot or something, that's not what these are used for, these are for.
Right.
Don't
For
push the
us.
snow back in the driveway when they've already.
Oh.
That's the biggest one I get. I just scooped my driveway, that guy pushed his
We'll
snow.
just wing it right back in the middle of the road when we go by.
Put a big, yeah. That way when they pull out their driveway, they run into it, get stuck right in the middle of the street.
I've had some of the best snow conversations you can have.
Yeah. Yeah, been around long enough for that, but,
I'll make a motion to approve the new.
Second.
Won't vote.
thanks for putting that together, Trevor.
7 games.
Round number 3. Discussion and action. Review of the Aquatic Center staff manual and emergency action plan was recommended by the Parks Commission.
Go for it, Brian.
All right, good evening, good to see you all. Just gonna dive right into this. So one of the first focuses when I came into this, aquatics are my strength. So I dove right into that. And then the printer is what we'll talk about next. But so I wanted to implement something for the aquatic center that was very structured, very detailed, as far as something that our staff can come in and view. We give them this, and this is their Bible. This is what they operate from. So it's very detailed. As you know, kids, they need structure. So try to make it as structured as possible without being too overwhelming. Something that 14 to a 22-year-old can still handle. So it goes through a lot of the stuff that was already in place. I basically just strengthened it and then add some things that I thought were missing that could better our operations. So it talks about the aquatic job descriptions, no changes there, staff wage info, and age requirements, really no changes there. There's a section on staff policies. I'm not going to go through all this because it's pretty thick. So then uniform requirements, just making sure that everybody's on the same page with what they're expected to wear at the aquatic center. Yes, it is a part-time job. Yes, it is recreation, but we still want to look professional. So we'll try to be all on the same page with our attire. Scheduling procedures, nothing changed there. Just some basic, calling in sick, talking about rain days, how we handle that. Going over some more specific procedures that guards will take as far as guest assistance forms and in-service trainings, which are required by the state. First aid, and then Just going over breaks and rotations, there was sort of kind of a map that kids could go off of, but I spent some time on this, took an aerial view of, just went on Google Maps and basically just mapped everything out. This is your zone, if you're at this station, everything's mapped out, it's very clear, it's color coordinated, easy to read. So, and then that will tie into our emergency action plan. So when the kids are out there and they're guarding, they will have that visual in their head. This is my zone, this is what I'm in charge of, and then this is what we do if an emergency happens. So some other general policies about dealing with lifeguard shortages, how we'll adjust our staff and our rotations. Down 1 guard, down 2 guards versus down 3 guards. I'm from Grand Island. We had a big issue with being down. We had probably 22 guards on staff at once, so probably not as big of an issue here, but I threw it in there just to be safe. So general facility rules, again, a lot of those were in place. There was a couple that I added. The one big one being that children 9 years of age and under must be accompanied by a paid chaperone of 14 years of age or older at all times. That way we don't get kids stumbling in here that can't take care of themselves. I mean, we're dealing with life and death. When it comes to pools, it sounds more serious. I mean, it is very serious, but we don't want anybody in there that thinks they can swim, but they don't have the supervision, and maybe that kid should be in a life jacket if they're not going to go out of their way to get one. So we want to make sure at a certain age you are basically being supervised by somebody who knows better and can keep an eye on you. So facility rules, slide rules, nothing changed there. Facility procedures, just talks about our emergency action plan. So we'll get into that next, but the emergency action plan basically will have a plan for everything that happens, anything and everything. Severe weather, God forbid active shooter, just anything that you can think of. People releases, and then just a by station emergency action plan. So again, that's going to be their Bible. They're going to be expected to know that, go through that, and understand what to do in each situation. Let's see if anything else needs to be talked about here. A lot of it's very general. Towards the end there, I put in just kind of a pool chemistry and maintenance info for managers. Managers are the only ones that are allowed to do anything back to the chemicals because they will have their pool operators license as required by the state. So basically this goes through, and I wanted to make it so that they can refer to this if something goes awry. If the chemicals are all out of whack, I don't know if you're familiar with pools, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and then this is basically just a troubleshooting guide. So what to do if pH is low, what to do if our alkalinity is out of whack. It gives you step-by-step kind of general what to do in that scenario. So chemicals are always crazy. So I thought it would be good to throw that in there. Very last page, staff disciplinary guidelines. This is far different from what they had in place prior to me coming in. This is something that I brought with me from Grand Island. It's basically giving kids 5 chances, which is a lot. They're high school kids. So just kind of goes through there, and it's basically a 5-point system. You lose 1 point, basically explain to you what's going on, what you did wrong. Same with 2 and 3 points, 4 points. You got to meet with your supervisor. 5 points, we make it definitive. That's termination. There are ways to earn points back by doing community service items at the pool, scrubbing scum lines, cleaning bathrooms, whatever it may be. So that was the other big change there. And then, so on the last page, they will sign off on that after our meeting, after they've had a chance to look at this. That way, this is a document that says you understand the facility operation or staff manual, and then we can refer to that if anything comes up. So I tore through that pretty quick, but does anybody have questions about any of that? Do you have to answer?
I don't think we ever really had a governing body approved plan at that pool operation. So I was doing my task, I guess, with Briar when he came in as operation plans for parks, which is quite a good Pritchard after this. But even for remaining parks and facilities, having something that comes to the governing body, goes to the park board, really vets that through, and the governing body giving that stamp of approval saying, this is how we're gonna operate, you know? If there's issues, there's problems, if there needs to be modifications to the plan, then there's a path for that to get done. It's not just on one person to make that decision or push back to prior to try to implement it. It's come back to the governing body and say, here's these issues, here's how we can navigate those, modify those, and get that all in agreement with the governing body. So that's kind of the intent of the plan prior. Quite a bit to get this one pulled together, so.
Yeah, there was, so the last kind of piece to this that'll go along with this, they'll need to understand the emergency action plan. Again, like I said, there's gonna be several plans for different scenarios, but this is gonna be the one that they need to know the most. Is what to do at every single station. If you are the guard at that station, an emergency happens, you know exactly what to do. If you're the guard to the right of you, you know exactly what to do. There's a person that's gonna be the primary guard, secondary guard to help backboard. There's gonna be a backboard person. There's gonna be a assigned person with a walkie-talkie to call an emergency, so on and so forth. We'll have crowd control. We'll have all that. It's very detailed. It's outlined here. Something else they'll be expected to know.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote.
7 yeas.
Order number 4, discussion and action. Review of the operations and use plan for the Pritchard Auditorium as recommended by the Park Commission.
All right. So the next focus was, I heard a lot of talk about Pritchard. It is a great facility, but one of the things that I knew right away was that it was very underutilized. I had people stop in there all the time. It's just such a great place. I remember doing this when I was a kid, doing that when I was a kid. I really thought that there was kind of a wasted opportunity to maybe get some recreation use out of it during weeknights from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we have professional staff down there, myself and Matt Turvey, who's our maintenance guy down there. We're there till 4, and the building's open 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's unlocked. You can walk in, do whatever you want. But now with this new proposed plan, just basic general outline, we want to get some use in there Monday through Friday, 4 to 8 p.m. We'll have a staff on site to supervise. I've kind of got some input from the schools and just trying to see what there is available for youth recreation activities, during the winter months when it's cold. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot unless you're involved in organized sports. I know there's some things out there, but I think this would go over well. It'd be a kind of an inexpensive way for us to offer something back to the community, especially the youth side of things. So basically just went through and talked about the facility amenities. There's a long list. And then kind of the operational plan outline. So after talking with the park board, we kind of decided it'd be best to implement this kind of into 2 phases. So phase 1 being what we talked about most tonight. But phase 1, basically just getting nighttime use out of it. So it targets extended hours and recreation activity options along with restructured facility rental options and fees to enhance facilities use and provide a variety of options to the community. So phase 1 highlights basically, we kind of talked about doing a soft launch in December. So like December 2nd, we could, that's a Monday. So we could say open to the public, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll have the staff, we'll have somebody here, come in, use the open gym options. So we'll have a front desk that'll be manned by somebody that will hire part-time, just sit up there and kind of patrol the building, make sure things are in order. There'll be a drop-in ball cart, basically pop it open. You can rent or check out basketballs. We have footballs in there, volleyballs. So we do have options to set up nets in there for them for volleyball if they want to. We also have pickleball courts in there, so that's another option. Got all the equipment for that. So all those are options when you drop in. So we'll carry out a soft launch in December. Free access to all members of the community. Membership passes go on sale in December and become active starting January, 1st of January. So we want this, the idea was to have this be membership driven. It's a pretty inexpensive way just to get your family involved. That was one of the things that we talked about was throwing in a family pass option, but you can buy a youth pass, senior pass, individual pass. Basically, that gets you access to the building year round. We'll have more limited hours in the summer because people are going to be busy. So 7 to 4 in the summer, but during the school years or school months, like basically September 1st to the end of April, it'll be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It'll be staffed. So,
What are you thinking for the family pass? Because that was one thing I was gonna bring up, because like, back when I had younger kids, it would have been like $336 a year.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's not that much, but it's a lot.
we talked about it, and unfortunately, I did leave it out of here. But we want it to be something that's inexpensive. You know, it's not like Pritchard is fairly affordable to to operate. You know, we're basically talking about the utility side of things and part-time staffing. We've got the equipment. There's really no cost other than that. So we want to make it affordable. We want to provide something to the community. So yeah, we'll address that once we get the passes like actually structured and ready to go. I mean, we got our fees set other than that, but we'll install that, and then we hope to go live with that on our TPAR software, Parks and Recreation. So be able to sell passes internally.
So like a pool pass right now, family pass is $150. Briar said the Pritchard doesn't take heavy as far as staff labor compared to the pool. You know, we're $11,000 of expense on the pool just for staff labor on a weekly basis, whereas down here we can do that and you have a little bit of time. So it'd probably be structured somewhere between that probably 2 adult member kind of price, and that would probably get you 4, just like the pool pass does. So it's 2 adults, 2 kids with an additional add-on, so you can have 5. And then you can still do a daily drop-in if people didn't want to do it just like they do at the pool, you know, $3 and let the kids come in and shoot hoops all afternoon or whatever it's going to be. The idea is to complement this to our current rentals also. So when that's happening, then this access would go away. We'd have to navigate people with that, with how we have a calendar of when that's booked out for, weekend reservations. And most of the time it's the weekends or when the schools have it. Ideally, it would, all the other times that it's not rented out during this phase 1 time slot, it'd be open for those hours for people to just use on that pass or do it as a drop-in.
Sorry, I don't mean to interject.
No, we're good.
We're talking about rental rates, and I know me and Briar had to talk because, I'm on the rec board, and we help volleyball and basketball at public schools because it's free. Because they would have raised my rates. I would have to charge more for the community, these kids to do it because we're losing our butt. If we had to pay the, $300 half day or $200 half day, so I get it, and I'm not asking for anything, but I know Briar mentioned, well, maybe we could do something like that, but that might be something to consider in the future.
For the entities, the schools, Fall City Rec, we have the abilities to do those kind of, or the, I can't think of the agreements off the top, interlocal kind of agreement, and set how that's going to be up. So you have a plan that says, here's what you're going to do, and your interlocals would supersede that. So you could put in a plan of, okay, they're getting first priority and a different rate or no rate. I mean, like Fall City Rec, doesn't make sense for us to charge. We already fund $5,000, so the city just has to fund more. So the idea would be not to have those issues, and then the schools, they have an hourly rate, reduced rates, but we could set other agreements up specifically with all those entities to change how that pricing structure and how it's utilized will be redefined in those.
I think that's something to look at because, I know Mayor Huffenberg wants people to use Pritchard more, and here I am going, well, I agree with him, but I can't afford, $1,000 for 5 weeks, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't gonna come to council, the city councilman, and ask him for a deviation. So I just said, I support it.
Well, I think that's what come back with having some of the high school, Sacred Heart and public school have basketball games there too, is when they have free at their own place in sessions, they didn't want to go down there. So I mean, I'm looking against good ideas. I mean, like you said, we can restructure.
Yeah. Yeah. The intent of the pass piece is to get the individuals. So get the kids that are coming in are don't have anything to do. In the winter months, we've had, you know, with how we were structured, we had people come in, just rent it, just say, here, open to the kids, and we have somebody there just to let them go in and shoot hoops. This way, it's already functioning, it's already there and set up where those individuals can go do that and get a little more of that day use when it's a hockey renter. It's not running through a program of some sort. So it keeps kind of the off-use time, which is early mornings, you know, and then after school, and your midday is usually a little anyways for recreation, you know, after lunch.
And the main reason I wanted to wait on phase two, basically restructuring rentals, is for that reason, like you said. I still am trying to gain an understanding of who uses what and when and how. Because, for example, today, Sacred Heart Sacred Heart basketball, these facilities, they weren't on the calendar or anything. And so I had no idea they were coming in, but I think it's one of those things where, you know, right now they're not paying anything to come in, but they're just opening it up and, you know, they're using the facility. So that's one of those agreements it's not on paper, but it's like, we probably should have something in place. And the other thing with restructuring rentals is like, let's get everything on the calendar. You know, if we're going to have people come in for like drop-in use, you can go to our website, you can look at that calendar, you can see, okay, there's Sacred Heart basketball tonight from whatever, 4 to 6, and we know that after 6, from 6 to 8 it's open. So that all kind of ties together, and it's going to be like a working policy that we have as we go. But the phase one part of it seemed like the easiest thing to me. Just let's get it open, let's get people using it, and then go from there.
I'd still love to see like a community survey. We talked about doing one upon time about what else we could add in there that would be well utilized. I think we need to add a little more to give us a bang for a buck on some of these rates. But it's kind of my 2 cents.
I think the two parties are good too.
Yeah.
Have you made any contact with high school, Sacred Heart, or public about coming back to have basketball games there?
Talked to Doug Goltz, and basically just through email, but basically we still need to get together and talk about games and stuff. But from my understanding, they don't plan on having any games at Pritchard Auditorium. They're just
It used to be
Well, yeah, but the thing is, what turned it like a Falls City Public was they were practicing at the gym and playing their games down at Pritchard. And they wanted to more like, if you're going to practice from a facility, you want to take the games there. That's where we changed it. When we added on our gym and started doing it, like when my son played in the early 2000s, there's the fact that the gym's smaller, all the kids are right on top, the noise is louder, if they're letting all part of that. So, but this does get used for some tournaments, some youth tournaments and things like that. And some wrestling take place. So,
Wrestling's great, man.
Yeah.
That was.
you can get up and go anywhere you want to and not have to cross the mat.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think it's a great idea, what you're doing, right?
I'll take motion to approve this.
Seven yeas.
Thank you.
thank you.
Discussion and action, authorization to execute all grant documents, including the general administration agreement and construction management agreement with Southeast Nebraska Development District for the Public Works Infrastructure Grant number 24 PWI 006.
All right, so the doom and gloom in my city administrators saying we didn't get a bunch of grants. We did get this one. So this was one we asked for community direct spending on through Richard's office and Adrian Smith's office, which we didn't get appropriated for that. So we went ahead and applied for the Public Works Infrastructure Grant, which is the first time we've been able to do it as a city due to our LMI, or low to moderate income percentage. So that changed with the new census, bringing that up where we're over 48%, or excuse me, over 51%. We made an application with that. Sin worked with us to draft that up. We had a bunch of entities. I think we had 40 plus kind of letters of support throughout the community from businesses and residences that went along with that grant. So we were awarded that up to $458,000. And the project, Miller and Associates has already contracted to do the engineering work It was planned after our phase one went into place. So this gets us some funding to complete that project, which would be phase two of sewer lining and manholes and our gravity sewer lines over in the northeast side of town. Runs from just north of the pool aquatic center all the way east to the lift station. So all that's a lot of that is under groundwater with the depth there. So there's a lot of infiltration, busted clay, cracked clay pipes. They'll go in, reline that with the cast in place pipe, essentially. It's heated up, put in place, cures, go back through, cut the sewer taps out, and then the manholes will be lined also or rebuilt. And we have I don't remember what you call it, where it goes under the creek, under there.
Siphon.
The siphon has to be rebuilt. Consistently got some issues. It's granted it's 70 years old, so it's going to have some problems. So that will be rebuilt. That was part of that project. So we'll wait. We still have to get. This is the notice of award. All the documents that will come along with it, and then NDED will send us over after kind of DocuSign. It'll go to the mayor for him to execute all those pieces. We're just asking for authorization, go ahead and execute it. It was planned. It was actually budgeted for that grant money to come in, and the expenditures go out the door. So we're all good to go within budget. Good thing we got a little money out of it. We have a match piece. I think it's 20% or 25%. That saves us from paying all of it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Congratulations.
7 years.
Stay in the agenda.